Hi, my name's Thomas Carlson. Welcome back to class number 4 here at the Jersey City Art School. We've got these free classes going on right now online to kick off our YouTube page, JC Art School, Jersey City Art School. You can check us out on Instagram, check us out online at our webpage at jcartschool.com. Also, we are setting up a new page called jcart.co that's going to follow a lot of their artists and studios. We do offer studio space for artists and workspace, so if you are looking for workspace or artist studio space, don't hesitate to contact us here in downtown Jersey City. Thanks. So we're going to get started right away today, and what we're going to focus on today is focus on the nose and focus on the mouth. Now, I've had to take some time and retool different ideas to try to get this lesson together, because it's always a little difficult to describe exactly what's going on with the nose and then also the mouth, but especially the nose. The nose is the feature in the center of the face that connects both the eyes and mouth. So you have to kind of also teach a little bit more about the eyes and the structure of the eyes, and then also talk a little bit more about the mouth. So if you want to follow along at home with a charcoal pen and paper, you could, otherwise a pencil, anything like that. What I'm working with is the iPad Pro. So we're going to get started right here and take a look at some of the things that I have already drawn. So the nose, it basically consists of a couple of different parts. Right over here, we all have elements of the bone. So the bone is also, we can see here, and the top part of the bone of the nose, the nasal bones, are these small bones that sit here on top that actually kind of can be almost broken away. So when somebody breaks their nose, that portion could get broken, but often there's damage done to the cartilage right here, which is where you have this bend of the nose right here. A lot of people have a very straight line from there. The cartilage just builds right off of the nasal bones. Some people have a Roman nose, which there's a little bit of a break there. Some people have broken their nose and it can be tilted one way or another. A lot of different things going on with the nose, and that is one thing that makes it pretty difficult. Right here we have cartilage. So cartilage is right in here. And cartilage is basically kind of a very stiff, bony, not like material. It's kind of like if you are a meat eater, like we know what cartilage is. It has almost like a plasticky type of vibe. It has a little bit of a bend to it, but for the most part, it is a material that is very different than the bone. It can kind of be moved around a little bit versus the bone, which does not move. And the nose is largely comprised of cartilage in two different sections. It's usually how we want to think about it as an artist, where this top section right here is an extension of the nasal bones from right here. And then this section right here would be the actual tip of the nose. Now, I'm not going to get too caught up in names for these different bits of cartilage, but one thing that is helpful when looking at both the nose and the mouth, this area right here is the septum, and then the area down here that immediately goes underneath the nose is the philtrum. So the septum and philtrum, and then we also have this fatty element right here, which is basically what creates the nostril. So that is going to largely be fat. And that is the portion that can kind of get moved around here in the back. So we've got a fatty connection here, and then there's like a loose connection between that and the cartilage. So your nostrils can move around. They can open and close as you're breathing in and out. So just be aware that there are 3 different kind of materials going on in the nose. So this is a pretty good breakdown when looking at it. And when it actually comes to drawing some of these elements, though, what kind of smooths everything out is the layer of skin that goes over all of this. So looking at a bunch of different types of noses here, I just took some time and looked at an anatomy book and looked at some different noses. The most important thing when you're looking at the nose is sort of looking at the direction it's going. So this is kind of, these noses are going more in this direction. This nose is going in this direction. So this nose is going in this direction. One thing that can even be better than drawing an arrow like that is to draw like almost like a 3D cone, and really get a sense of the exact direction that these noses are facing. So that's really going to be helpful, because one of the biggest problems that people have when it comes to drawing a nose is the fact that they're not quite engaging with the direction that it is pointing unless that person's looking directly at you. You always want to kind of go in there and readjust as far as what's going on with that nose. So a very good exercise is to actually download different pictures of people or print them out on paper and to try to draw an overlay for starters. When I will work from any sort of photo reference, I tend to always look at it. But I mean, I've been drawing for years, so it's kind of similar, but it does sort of help to look at a photo, maybe take down the opacity and try to draw the lines over top of it while looking and thinking about these kind of bones, the fatty elements of the nostril, and then the cartilage. So we're going to go to another diagram here and simply bring up something that we can start fresh on. So we're going to take a look at our skull, and we're going to draw a similar drawing as to what we have been working with. We're going to look at the sort of lateral view of the skull and then the anterior view of the skull. So again, this is a good sort of, a good practice to kind of get back into, when we can draw our lines if we want to do that. Make sure you put them in the right place. Draw our lines if you want to do that, and get an actual rhythm of symmetry going on here. So we've got our face. If you remember the structure of the face, we're going to put the eyes in the middle of the head. We're doing the 5 eyes going across. As we do. And then we're going to look at that shape of the tennis ball here in the mouth. Let's see, kind of the state of Texas again. So, I mean, this is just sort of one way to kind of get in there and just start. Good habit to get into to redraw. So we look at the side of the face here, and we have that nostril, that nasal bone, just kind of jetting right out from the eye socket. And then we're going to kind of extend that shape of the mouth here. And the bottom of the nose is we have an element that kind of jets out a little bit here at the base of the nostril. Not everybody's bones are shaped the same, but the setup that we're looking at right here with this particular skull, you've got a little bit of an extension there. And some people, you could feel that the cartilage is growing right out of that area, and that is the area that we call the septum. So it's good to kind of like draw that out first and then develop that line. We've got the top portion, and then the actual part of the actual nose kind of sticking out there. So it's kind of good to design these elements first, almost looking like the tip of a shoe. And you're going to have a lot of different designs for a nose. What you're going to want to first focus on is looking at the actual facial slope. So that facial angle, like to the extent that this goes out or in that tennis ball, that's going to change the shape of the nose. So if this is further out, the nose is going to kind of flatten and become a little bit more along the side of the face, like this, going out to the teeth. Versus if the teeth are further in, then that nose is going to be a little bit more pointed, potentially, because there's going to be less of an angle that is involved with that tennis ball shape being further out. So it's good to kind of do an underdrawing like that that might be faint. You could also make it darker and then go in and kind of fade it out like this, and then look at some of the details on top. So after I've done kind of a loose drawing on top like that, I usually like to go in and draw in the nostril first. And this area, that septum that comes down, now for some people that can be lowered down. So the front of the shape of the nose has a little bit more of a V going from the nostrils down to the septum. Other people will have it a little bit more straight. So I'll start with a straight nose where that's coming out, and then we've got the design of the actual nostril next. This is coming out. We may have a little bit of a break here, and then this is coming up and around like that. So it's very important, again, similar to the mouth, which we'll talk about next, and also what we talked about the eye in our last class, is that you want to really think about, from a lateral point of view, what is exactly going on with the plane, what direction is it facing. So the nose, at first, the top part of the nose is actually aiming down, and then the nose itself is aiming up, and then it's kind of tucking around here, aiming down, and then the upper lip, above the upper lip where the philtrum is aiming up. Then we get to the upper lip, which is facing down, the lower lip is facing up, and then the bottom of the lower lip is facing down, and then the chin is up, and then has a roundness to it. So this is very important, because what you can learn from that is you can go in and start in with your shading based on where and whether something up or not, and develop basically two values, and that kind of helps simplify things. So, we can develop two values and shade in everything sort of facing down. And we could start by just doing which is essentially the core shadow, and then next we could go in and then really develop what is called the cast shadow. So what is being cast, what is this casting down onto, So, you've got those two tones that kind of exist that are very important. So that's one way to kind of develop and think about the features of the face, is once you've developed all the cheekbones, the mandible, the scale and size, obviously one head high, one head deep, 5 eyes across, eyes in the center of the head, all that good stuff, then you can kind of go in and break down the features step by step while looking at the nose. The other thing that's very important about the nose is the design of the nose. Looking at it from a front view is typically you've got the opening of the nasal bone here, how that will open up. Got your nasal bones on top, the area in between the eyes. Again, I'm looking at the skull here. I find that's very helpful, especially when you're learning. Take time, draw your hands when you're sitting there. When you're trying to kill some time, get into better habits where maybe you've got a little sketchbook and you're drawing instead of playing a game on your phone or doing something that is a little bit in that vein of a compulsive behavior. If you can take some of your compulsive behaviors that this time period has sort of developed and aim it towards drawing and painting and studying things like anatomy, like that will very much make you a better artist in no time. I think a lot of visual artists that I know are fairly compulsive people, and I think that is what drives them to do this type of stuff in the first place. So just a side note there. So I've developed my face here, and looking at the different elements of the side of the face, behind the mandible, how this gets a little darker in here. The nostril gets a little darker in here. The front of the face. All right, stated text is from the side. All right, now I'm going to go to another layer here and start to develop this nose looking from the front. So one of the things that we really do want to think about when we're looking at the nose is also, let me just knock down the value on this real quick. All right, and what we're going to do here is when looking at the nose, one of the things that we do want to think about is the shape of the front of the nose. Now, people have very different types of noses. Some people have big kind of balls at the end. Some people have noses that kind of bend severely right here. Older people, as you get older, your cartilage will start to sag, unfortunately. So, I mean, you will then kind of observe that break, and then also skin gets thicker. So what you really want to try to pay attention to is when you're drawing is to kind of know those basic forms here. So let's just shrink that down a little bit more. And look at this, the front of the nose here. So again, we're looking at the septum and kind of developing that front, developing the kind of two balls of the front of the nose and how they'll kind of come down. Then most noses, there's a little bit of a structure in here. Like it tends to be a little bit of a square shape. So that square shape does sort of help you in the long run, where if you kind of develop a bit of a square here, right at the side, you can kind of feel it as the plane goes up right here. That is going to help give some structure to the tip of the nose. And then the nostrils will be a little skinnier as it goes in. And then we've got the fatty part kind of on the sides. And I mean, a lot of times I'll really look at the shape of this first, because that really does help me identify what is going on with the person's look later on. We've got the kind of shoehorn type effect right here. Important to remember that this is going to be a little bit of a mid-tone. So this is a mid-tone right in here, and then this then flattens out to the front of, starting to the front of the brow, you know, and then this is going to be a little bit lighter in here. So this is a good way to develop, and then we can even just come in here, add like a highlight, and as we really think about our light, so if our light is sort of coming down at an angle like this, we're going to put the highlight aiming in that direction and then lighten things up. And then a lot of the development of the nose and making the nose look right is going to have a lot to do with the sort of cast shadow that's coming down from that and raking over the upper lip. You know, so a lot of it is really to be determined until you get a sense of lighting in there. You get lighting in here, lighting coming around here. You may maybe have a little bit of a shadow on this side of the nose. But like really taking the time to develop that and the lighting is going to be fairly important to developing the full look of the nose in space. Just because it really is it's a type of thing that when drawing and or painting, there's such little subtle things you can do to completely change the look, but then also to kind of make it look broken. So keep that in mind. So the other thing that you are going to want to be aware of is a lot of times when you do have this extent of light, you're going to have a little bit of a reflected light on the inside of the nostrils going that way. that's picking up from the skin and ultimately coming back over. So now we're going to talk a bit about the mouth, because we're down here to the mouth here. So the mouth, you really want to think about that head as being something that, which we talked about in one of our last classes. You know, when rain is hitting the side of the head, it is designed to kind of spill off of the side of the features and always go off. Same goes for the mouth. And that is kind of what gives us, if you think about a mustache or a beard, like the direction of the hair and the way the hair is kind of on both men and women, preventing water from going into the eyes, into the nose, and not going into the eyes, not going into the nose, and not going into the mouth. So that's going to be very important to always be very considerate of the shape of those things as we're working on our figure here. And then the mouth is quite a bit easier, thankfully. So similar to the nose, we're not going in and completely focusing on just the nostrils and giving them like a pig nose, or developing just a hard line that goes across that destroys the form. We're going to think first about the form itself. So the mouth, the form of the mouth is, let's erase these lines for a second, is, we'll go down here, is the upper lip and the philtrum is facing up, and then the upper lip itself is facing down. Then you've got the lower lip that's facing up, and then underneath the lower lip is facing down, and then you're getting into that chin territory. So again, this is facing down. The mouth is going to, we'll work on this next. From the front view, what you really want to focus on is that your top upper lip, it kind of like when you close your mouth, it comes into sort of the center of the, comes into the center of the teeth. So the lip separation is right here. So I'm just going to put 3 lines like that. I'm not going to get into the shape of it yet. I'm going to start first with the form. So we've got 1 form, 2 form, 3 form like that for the top lip. And then we've got 1, 2 for the bottom lip. Now these circles are very important because these circles are really going to help develop what's going on with the shape of the mouth when the mouth is closed. So you've got a little bit of a space right there that goes up to that lip. Then you've got this space in front. You've got a little accent there, and you've got an accent there. So we may do something like that, and then with this, go in and smudge these different elements together, and or erase them. But that kind of technique of doing those different shapes first really does help you with what is going on with the actual shape of the mouth itself. And then we're going to cut into this and start to think about this as being something that is, the philtrum is creating this. We have a shadow coming this way, so this is going to be on this side. Similar to like when we were talking about our eyes, how that shadow is on the side of the light. And then let's just get rid of this for 1 second. And then we're going to go back to our model down here, where this is facing up, the upper lip is facing down. So we're going to go in there, we're going to develop kind of a darker value here for the upper lip. And then we're going to take that same value and develop it right here underneath where the lower lip. So the lower lip attaches kind of to the side here. You've got the structure of this is coming down like that, and then you've got structure of it coming down like that. And then because our light is coming from this side, we are going to develop the cast shadow going over to the right. So, all right. So this is one way to kind of look at the mouth. And then you really do also want to smooth out all those features, because the mouth is largely a thicker piece of skin that is wrapped around a very flat orbital muscle. And you're also thinking of it in terms of it also being wrapped over a sphere, which is the shape of your teeth when they're coming together right there. So you really always want to make sure that you are doing lines that kind of go with that sphere, that where they, from the top of the lip, they come down like that, and the bottom of the lip come down underneath like that, forming ultimately that tennis ball shaped sphere, which we talked about a lot in some of the other classes. All right, so a pretty good looking mouth. So we are gonna put our under layers back on here and take a look at it over top there. Now, a lot of different types of mouths, you know, a lot of that just comes from the practice of drawing, but for the most part, you're always gonna get the 3 circles that are on top and then the 2 circles that are on bottom. We may go over drawing more regarding the teeth. We will have a class talking about the hair, facial hair, the hair itself later on, and then maybe focus a little bit on expressions, in which case we may focus on more about how the teeth will come into our drawing. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. The nose, the mouth, I've enjoyed doing these videos. If you appreciate them, please show appreciation by giving us a share, subscribe to our channel, even better. Just share this with your friends. Again, these are free classes. Exciting news, we are going to be doing some classes where we are handing out packages. So keep an eye at jcartschool.com. We will make announcements right here. And we are also going to be releasing a few videos upcoming following some of the shows that we recently have done at our gallery, the 313 Gallery. Thanks so much for joining us. Again, Thomas Carlson, Jersey City Art School. Have a good day.